Hey everybody, this is Dan, the Renewed Rewilder, and I'm here to make the second video in a series that I'm intending to make. No timeline at this point, it's just as it comes to me, as I think of it, regarding Christians and rewilding. And I'm currently right next to the Rogue River in Southern Oregon, beautiful area, so enjoying nature. Anyway, I'm gonna hunker down against this rock. And I realized after I got down here that I don't have any place where I can prop my phone, so I'm not able to reference my Bible directly. I'm not good at doing that, managing both hands at the same time. So I'm gonna just go off of memory, my knowledge of Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2 and also getting into chapter 3. Genesis chapter 2 is the detailed account of the creation of first man and first woman, named in the Bible as Adam and Eve. Chapter 3 is the account of the fall, where they choose to sin and they basically fall out of favor within the natural order of creation. And there are repercussions placed against them. So, what we learn in this, it talks about God making man in his own image. It says that God forms them from the dust of the earth. It implies his hands involved directly in forming the figure of Adam. Whereas before his other creations, he spoke and he said, hey, I want this to happen, I want that to happen, and creation happened. And it says with man that he took the dust of the earth, or the clay, the soil, and he formed it, and he formed all the parts of man. And then he breathed his life specifically into that man. And it says that man was made in his image. There's a lot of discussion about what it means to be made in his image, the Imago Dei, which just means image of God. And so there's a lot of discussion about that. And then it says that he noticed that man felt alone, that man didn't feel fully accomplished or fully happy with just the garden and the animals and the creatures and the plants around him, and even with his fellowship with God, which I find really interesting, that the man was alone. And maybe that God actually just created him to need fellowship, and so God then makes a wife for him. The account says that he put Adam into a sleep, and he took one of his ribs, and then he formed that rib into a woman. Now, was it a literal sleep and a literal rib? Was it a metaphorical sleep and a metaphorical rib? I don't know. I'm not qualified to make that call. But that's the story. And then once Eve was completed, he wakes Adam up, and there is his wife. And then they're given tasks. The tasks specifically of tending the garden, naming the animals, and just taking care of things. But there's also an implication in that it was not just tending the garden where they were placed, but that they were to take the order that was found in the garden, and that they were to expand that order into the chaotic, freshly created world outside of the garden. So they were to take dominion. A lot of the translations use that term, take dominion, over the earth. And that seems to imply that where God made a garden and placed them in that garden, that had a specific amount of order, and that they were to now go into the chaotic wilderness and introduce that order and to bring it into order. So for the Christian Rewilder, I think that there's a lot to ponder right there. I don't think that we really see very much evidence in Scripture that we're supposed to just be hands-off of nature, that we're supposed to just let nature do its own thing without our influence. In fact, Scripture seems to imply the opposite, that we are to manage nature, manage the resources, manage the earth with wisdom, and to tend to it. So It looks like my battery's running out, so I've got to make this really quick. I guess I would invite you to maybe think along the lines of, what does it mean to manage the earth and its resources? What does it mean to take the order of Eden into the chaos of the wilderness? Does it mean that we are supposed to do whatever we wish to do with the resources that are around us? Does it mean that we are supposed to have limited influence but still have influence? There's different thoughts around this. Now, spoiler alert, as a Rewilder, my thoughts tend a lot more towards living in balance with nature, and that we are to be present, we are to be an influence, we are to have dominion over nature, but that it should be done with wisdom and in a way that does not, I guess you would say, harm the earth. But that's kind of an ambiguous term. What is harm? Everybody has a different idea of what might be harm. So I'm not making this video to present clear lines or rules or limits, boundaries, whatever you want to say. I wanted to create this video really just to put that thought out there and to invite you into that process of thinking, what does this really mean for me? The mandate that we should take the order of Eden into the chaos of the wilderness outside of Eden. What does it mean for modern man? What does it mean for us in this day and age where so much of nature has been subdued and, quite honestly, destroyed? Is that appropriate or not? So those are my thoughts. Also, I would like some thoughts from you all on subjects that I could cover with regards to this. Already just dealing with the creation account, it gets into other aspects that I haven't even mentioned yet. But if there's anything I've mentioned in the last video or in this one where you have questions, let me know what those questions are and I'll see if I can answer them. Coming up, we'll probably get into some other things like how Adam and Eve lived. There's the subject of that, they were made without clothing. When did clothing come in? What's the concern for modern man when it comes to clothing or not clothing? We can get into subjects like, what should we be eating? Indications seem to be that Adam and Eve were vegetarian, and yet now we eat meat, or most of the world eats meat. What does that mean for the Rewilder? And a lot of these things I might not have clear answers for. A lot of these things I probably don't want to have clear answers for. Because again, I'm not about creating religious rules to impose on all of you. But I think that they're all good subjects for discussion. And my answers or my responses to some of those discussions might get some people mad, but I think that it's still good discussion and that we should be talking about these things. So feel free to let me know what types of subjects you would like me to cover as I go through different passages in the Bible and their import or their importance for the Rewilder who is striving to be renewed by the transforming of his mind. And may you all be renewed by the transforming of your mind. Until next time.